A play fake. Young goes deep middle. He's got Jerry Rice. Touchdown 49ers!
Welcome to another edition of the 49ers Family Podcast, where three generations of 49er fans break down the game each week and hear from Grandpa Mike as he shares personal experiences since he became a fan in 1949. My name is Josh, and I'm here with my dad, Jared, and my grandpa, Mike, and we are a 49ers family. Woo-wee! This one was fun. I mean, I feel like this podcast just keeps gaining steam because we keep winning. And now that is 6 games in a row, you guys. 6 games in a row. The Niners have taken care of business. And it is a fun time to be a 49er fan. I'll tell you that. Everybody I'm talking to that knows that I'm a 49er fan is just so jealous because they are a sight to behold. So I'm feeling good tonight. Grandpa, how you doing?
I feel wonderful, Josh. This was just a perfect game. It was unexpected. And, we're facing Tom Brady. He made me nervous. He's wins all these games in the last couple of minutes. And I thought it was going to be a close game and, come down to whoever had the ball last. Yep. And I'm just in heaven, we found ourselves a quarterback, and what a terrific job our scouting department has done. I mean, 7th round, last player picked. I mean, every team in the league would love to have this guy. So we've really drafted well, and here we go again. Yeah, it was a thorough game in every aspect, offensively, defensively, phenomenal, and special teams. Our special teams are improving. We're 5th in the league in special teams. I mean, we have been the last couple of weeks, but so just a couple of thoughts that I wanted to share. Christian McCaffrey, when we got him, we became an elite team, and he's just made us over the top dominant. And since we got McCaffrey, we're averaging 8 more points a game. We've gone from 20 to 28 points a game. That's huge. Our third down conversion rate has increased from 41% to 55%. He's a first down maker. And since his arrival, we've gone 6-1, and that's being pretty technical because the game we lost was Kansas City, and he was here 3 days.
Right.
Yeah. So that was just a brilliant trade. I know it's been criticized for the draft picks we gave up. I would do that every day. So he's just phenomenal. And against Tampa, he rushed for 119 yards. Then he had 34 yards receiving. He's 181 yards away from 1,000 yards rushing for the year, including what he did at Carolina. I mean, he's just a horse. Yep. So I love McCaffrey. And Greenlaw was all over the place, as was everybody. He made 15 tackles. And then I don't know if you saw it, but after the game, he had Tom Brady autograph the ball he intercepted. Mm-hmm. That was cool.
He actually had him sign 2 balls.
Right.
And I don't think it was confirmed, but they intercepted him twice. So I think he grabbed Tashawn Gibson's interception ball as well. So that's kind of funny.
Right. Yeah. So that was different. You don't see that very often.
No.
And this was, of course, a homecoming for Tom Brady. He grew up an avid 49er fan, as most everybody knows. His parents had 4 season tickets to the 49er games. He would go with his sister. And there's so many interesting aspects of this. He's played in the league 23 years. this is really his second game in the Bay Area, which, we play the AFC East every 4 years, and it's, rotated their place, our place. So he's only there once every 8 years. And in 2008, he missed the game because of an injury. But 35-7, just phenomenal. I mean, it was very, very convincing, and I just love it. So we're now 9-4, won 6 in a row, and we're off to Seattle in a couple of days. And anyway, Tampa Tampa won the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
Pretty crazy.
we're beating good teams. Anyway, I feel terrific.
Yeah. Dad, I know you were pumped up. We talked after the game. What are your thoughts?
I was pumped. It was beautiful to watch. We were firing on all cylinders. I think that's what I love to see the most, is that we were firing on offensively, defensively, special teams. Just a well-rounded team, like we stressed the last time we spoke. This is such a balanced team. And with the addition of Brock Purdy, I was telling Grandpa, we were watching the game, this was a Jimmy Garoppolo plus, it has the plus sign. You get extra features and benefits with Brock Purdy that we saw. His quick feet, his movement in the pocket, his ability to roll out and throw on the run. I mean, this poses even just so much more difficulty to scheme against for other opposing defenses. So just as a recap, I wrote down some notes. Brock Purdy was he didn't flinch once again. They brought the house against him time and time again, different looks. And he stood in the pocket and he delivered the ball. So they talk about him having guts or cojones. He's got that in spades. Mm-hmm. He was decisive, patient. He can throw on the move, steady, and just consistent. Okay. And he just made some really good throws. His arm strength is obviously not super powerful, but it's strong enough to deliver the ball. And he didn't get rattled. Even after that first play of the game, he changed the play call and took a helmet to the right ear and went down. He said, and I told Grandpa, I said, he likes to get hit. Mm-hmm. And his interview after the game was like, that made me feel like I was in the game. That's what he said. Fired him up. So. Yeah. Anyhow, he's a gamer and a student of the game. Another shout out to Shanahan, a great play call as far as the game is called. He called great plays. Every play kind of led to the next. The pass opened up the run, and he was all over the board, but consistent, and we delivered the ball to our playmakers. So Shanahan, one of the best games I've seen him call as far as plays. Danny Gray made his first catch as an NFL career. So Danny Gray is going to be picking up some slack from Debo, most likely. And hopefully we get to see him participate a little bit more. But that was a big thing. Danny Gray getting his first catch. Christian McCaffrey, 2 touchdowns, a receiving and a rushing touchdown, averaged 8.5 yards per rush. I mean, that's humongous. And he was a diversion for the defense the whole time. They had to know where he's at. So he's just great to have in the field. Ayuk had a great game too, 2 big catches, but he also did a lot of tremendous blocking. I watched a lot of the film after, but there were key plays where he was involved in every play, these little tiny things that Ayuk does that don't get noticed unless he touches the ball. But he had a touchdown. Kittle, some big catches, super versatile, lining them up in the backfield. That was cool. I mean, it's like he's in the backfield, Christian McCaffrey's out on the edge. It's just it's very interesting. That was fun. Debo, obviously, he ran the ball well, receiving a touchdown, and then his injury, which we can talk about later. Jordan Mason didn't see a lot of time. I kept saying, why isn't Jordan Mason in? Get him in there. Well, turns out, it sounds like some of the analysts have said Jordan Mason needs more time to learn his pass pickups and defensive blitz protection. Yeah. So having an inexperienced runner in there might hurt us in the long run. So Jordan Mason got some reps, and hopefully we'll see him a little bit more, but he's got to learn the scheme. Defense was amazing. I could go off on that for sure. Greenlaw was the star of the show. 15 tackles, 10 solo tackles. Okay. One interception. I mean, that's just crazy. We had 3 takeaways. That was huge. And we had 24 first downs. Those are the things that jumped off the paper to me, but I loved every minute of it.
So one other thing, there was an emotional moment in the game where the TV cameras zeroed in on Brock Purdy's family, and his father was crying and with just pride. And I almost cried when I saw that. I thought, what a moment. Here, the father is watching his son, his first NFL start, and he's doing phenomenal. And, so I just loved that moment.
That's cool. One last thing, another stat that just goes unnoticed. We had 2 penalties total for 15 yards. That's, I mean,
perfect game.
Really a perfect game on so many fronts. In fact, we turned over the ball, but it was called back. We had a few key penalties on the Seahawks that negated some negative plays for us. I don't know that we'll always get those breaks, but everything ball bounced our way against Tampa Bay. But it gave us tremendous confidence. It's a mindset and a confidence builder. Brock Purdy, his supporting cast. I don't like the Purdy craziness. I like people getting drunk on Brock Purdy. I mean, I love the guy. I could do it, but it's kind of like I love donuts, but I don't. I might take a bite. You know what I mean? Like I reserve myself. Okay. And with Brock Purdy, I don't want to drink the Kool-Aid too hard. I love the guy and I'm pulling for him, and I want to see him do it again, but I don't want to get too crazy on that and go too overboard. But I love what I see.
Yeah, no, I think you guys made some really good points, and man, we could probably talk forever about this last game, because you're right. I mean, some of just my reaction, some of the things you just said was, the ball did bounce our way. I felt that way. It's one of those games, that doesn't happen every game, but so when it does, you got to take advantage of it. Even that touchdown throw to Christian McCaffrey, where he should have waltzed into the end zone, but props to the defender. He punched the ball perfectly, and Christian McCaffrey held onto it, snuck a toe in the side of his pinky toe. They said that he caught the ball. But as we all know, what is a catch? Who freaking knows? It varies week by week. So the fact that they called it a touchdown was huge. And just so many little things. But I think, at a macro level, the team was confident. Everybody played confident and took care of business. I mean, it was 35-0. That you don't see that in the NFL. That you barely even see that in college.
You saw how frustrated Brady was, and that was satisfying as well. He just was furious.
For sure. Some of the other things on the box score that popped out to me were, one, the efficiency of Brock Purdy. As we mentioned, the flags, you said, Dad, we were totally right with what the Buccaneers were going to do. They were going to try and maybe run the ball, but they were going to stick to the pass, and Tom Brady passed the ball 55 times, which is crazy. We held them to just 69 rushing yards and a measly 250 yards passing, but with 2 interceptions. We talked about how Tom Brady had a 0.5% interception rate going into this game, and he threw 2 interceptions. Wow. It went better than even expected. And, I got to give you props, Dad, because you were the one that said it would win by 17 points or something like that. And we won by 28. So there you go.
In the 30s, he said, and it was in the 30s.
Leonard Leonard Fournette, who is a great rusher in the NFL. I mean, he's a great fantasy player, passing, receiving, and rushing. He had 13 yards and carried the ball 4 times. I mean, that's and nobody would have ever thought Fournette would have 13 yards rushing in that game.
So teams are waving the white flag as far as running is concerned. The week prior, Miami ran 8 times. And in this game, Tampa ran 19 times through 55. I mean, it's just disproportionate. So they're just saying we can't run against these guys.
And we got to hand it to our secondary. I mean, think about it. I mean, the ball was up in the air 55 times, you know, a couple went into the ground, but I mean, our secondary, I mean, this was that test I was talking about, that there were going to be balls flying. It was going to be an air attack, and our secondary had to cover, you know. Obviously our defensive line did what they're going to do. But the two together, we stopped Tom Brady and we held him 34 to 55, 2 interceptions, 1 TD. That's
so 55 passes, 7 points.
Yeah.
He wasn't sacked. He just gets rid of the ball so quick. 2.2 seconds.
And there actually there was one play where his knee was down before the ball left his hand. So Nick Bosa should have gotten a sack, but they didn't credit him. They said it was an incomplete pass. He got rid of it at the last second. But if you look at the tape, his knee was down.
I was Grandpa during the game. I said, they're going to march down the field. We're going to give them some first downs and they're going to march. I said, we're going to bend, but we're not going to break. And that's what our defense does. It kind of gives you, but then it's showtime and the stop comes. We bend, we don't break. We're bamboo.
Yeah.
Bamboo.
The one thing that I think was probably the best thing coming out of this game, maybe that's a little too strong. One of the best, I'll just say that, because I think Brock Purdy and the defensive showing was also amazing to see against a good team. Was honestly the oncoming of our rushing attack. We rushed for 209 yards. And as you know, we've also documented here on this podcast that the passing game was carrying the running game. And this is a little preface for the Seattle game. You know, I think that rushing yards and kind of aggressiveness on the ground is going to pay dividends, not only because we have a young quarterback and we can't lean on his arm, you know, to throw 35, 40 times a game. But just the fact that we have Christian McCaffrey, we have Jordan Mason. And once again, kind of like the other game where we held Elijah Mitchell really until the second half, Kyle Shanahan held Jordan Mason until the second half. And once that defense is kind of beaten and battered a little bit, throw in this bruiser of a running back and watch him go. And he did his thing once again. You know, I love watching Jordan Mason run. He's a good runner, good depth. Once again,
he's a hard runner. He's a fighter. And he's bigger than he looks. He weighs 223. He doesn't look it.
He's a battering ram. That's what I think of him as. He's just like, he's going to break down the door to the castle and nothing's stopping him, you know. As much as the soldiers are holding him, it's like, boom.
He's actually a battering 49er.
Yeah, that's right.
Go anyway.
And just kind of wrapping up our Tampa Bay talk. Now this is crazy. So over our 6-game win streak, the Niners are averaging 28.7 points per game, which is first in the league in that span. And our defense is averaging or allowing an average of 10.7 points per game, which is also first in the league.
That's unbelievable. 10 points a game. That's incredible. In this day and age where you can kick 50-yard field goals and they're throwing the ball, you know, I mean, wow. I just give a lot of credit to DeMarco Ryans. He's what a defensive coordinator he's become. We're going to lose him at the end of the year. He's going to be a head coach somewhere next year. And wow. But yeah, you just, he makes adjustments at halftime that are unbelievable.
Yep. No,
Yeah.
I couldn't
So
agree
we got a
more.
lot of good things going.
Well, and I'll give a little shout out while we're talking about coaches. Give a shout out to Brian Greasy as well. We talked about this QB room, and we'll talk about it a little bit later as well. But what a job that he has done. You got to give him credit, along with Kyle Shanahan, to prep these quarterbacks. And obviously, a lot comes down to their talents, their mindset, their characteristics themselves that have been impressive about all three. But Brian Greasy has been doing a heck of a job getting these guys ready, for sure.
Yeah, and you see him coaching during the game, when Purdy comes out, Greasy's over talking to him, and he's not saying hello or nice job. He's firm in whatever he's saying. It's he's involved.
It's a great system. With Lynch Lynch overseeing the show, Shanahan as head coach and a play caller, and then we have Brian Greasy. This, it's turning out to be a tremendous find and a great asset to our QB room and our QBs. And D'Amico Ryans. It's kind of a beautiful system. It reminds me a little bit of New England and what they've been known for, what they can put out. It's next player up, know what I mean? And because the system speaks for itself, the culture, the system, the coaching, everybody is like next man up. The guy behind is working as hard as the number one in that position. And the number three is working as hard as the 1 and 2. And everybody's cheering each other on. It is a full team effort. And the distribution of the ball in this game, again, was beautiful. If you look at the stats, as far as touches on the ball, rushing and receiving, Purdy, he delivered the ball to, just like Garoppolo would, to 6 different receivers or more, just really, really nice. But I love Greasy. He's the calming, steady Eddie in that QB room, which has been a tremendous asset this year.
Yeah. 3 number 1 guys sit in that room.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. And so of the 21 passes that we threw, he was blitzed. Purdy was blitzed 9 times.
Right.
And he, like Jared said, he doesn't flinch. He goes through with the play. The guy could be in his face mask, and he threw 2 over 20 yards and 5 others over 10 yards, which we haven't seen a lot of with Jimmy. So everything, it was a perfect game.
Yeah. A piece of trivia that I thought was kind of mind-blowing. So he had those 2 20-plus yard passes outside the numbers to both Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk. He had 2 in the first half. That's as many as Jimmy G has had in the last 3 years. 20-plus yard passes outside the numbers. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Well, it is, and it's going to help because it'll loosen up the defense. If you know that they can go deep, that they have to prepare for that. When Jimmy plays, they can move in, and it gets the field gets smaller.
And I loved him using his feet a little bit. I think he made a serious conscious effort in this game. One thing rang in his head: step up in the pocket, step up in the pocket. Because against Miami, he would step back or to the side, and that pocket hurt him a couple times, and he got sacked once because he ran right into it. But he stepped up in the pocket, kept his eyes downfield. And then I told Grandpa, and they were on, I forget the 10 or the 8 or something near the end zone. I said, he's going to run this ball in. If there's nothing open, he's running this ball, because they're dropping everybody, they're manning up on everybody in the end zone. The field's tight, but he's not afraid to use his legs. And he stepped up and boom, boom, right in. That was so fun.
Yeah, and that was surprising to see, a pleasant surprise to see a Niner quarterback running it in.
I love that.
So that's another weapon. It's another thing the defense has to be aware of. So it's all good.
Very good. So coming out of the game, of course, there were some injuries. At first, it looked like really bad injury on Deebo Samuel. He got carted off the field. He was, visually emotional. The whole team went out there and patted, his shoulder pads and, wished him best. He went off for, probably an X-ray, and of course they do the MRIs the next day at Stanford Hospital. The X-ray confirmed that nothing was broken, which was good. And then the MRI revealed that it was just an MCL sprain / ankle sprain, but not even MCL sprain. It just said knee and ankle sprain. So he's expected, and we're recording this today on Tuesday. Today, Kyle Shanahan said that he has been told to expect Deebo back in 3-ish weeks. Was the quote. So that is the best news that the Niners could get, honestly, because you take care, once again, I know we'll get into it more. You take care of business this week against Seattle, win the NFC West. Not that we want to coast, but there is a little bit of regathering yourself and getting ready for the playoffs rather than fighting to the very, very, very last second for a playoff spot. So happy to get him back. But some other injuries coming out of the game were other guys like Givens, D lineman, Kerry Hyder got dinged up a little bit. Dante Johnson, kind of a Niners journeyman, been on the practice squad a bunch of times and stuff. He tore his ACL. Unfortunately, he's out for the rest of the year. And kind of Ambry Thomas got dinged up. A bunch of guys got dinged up, which makes me a little bit nervous for this short turnaround week, playing on a Thursday. But as you said, Dad, and as we've seen, this Niners team is deep. And if there's anything that we can do, we can do anything for one game.
Yeah. There's going to be injuries, unfortunately. It seems like we get more than others. But everybody's banged up. Seattle is banged up, and Tampa was missing both tackles, and so it's a violent game.
And I forgot to mention the one that also made everybody kind of hold their breath, and we'll see if he plays or not. Big one, Brock Purdy has an oblique / rib injury. He tried to downplay it, that he wasn't in excruciating pain or anything, but he made it onto the injury report today. Once again on Tuesday, he said he has not thrown a ball since Sunday. And the media viewing portion of practice, they were just doing stretches and stuff, and did not see him throw a pass. So that is interesting. It sounds like from Kyle's and Brock's press conferences that they're still planning on him playing. He Brock said, this is just part of being in the league, is playing with injuries. And if you read Steve Young's book or any other guy, that every single week everybody's playing with an injury. You're pretty much in a 3-hour car crash every single week. And so these short weeks do hurt, though.
He will play. I know they're resting him, and that's the right thing to do. But he's a gamer. The thing is, if he throws the ball around, he's hurt. He's not going to hurt himself anymore. So that's why they'll play him. But they'll just see how well he can throw the ball, But a little ibuprofen with that kind of thing, you're going to be fine. I mean, I'm literally serious with an oblique injury.
I said the same thing. Get some Advil.
Yeah, you don't even have to give a guy a shot for that stuff. That, in fact, I'd take 800 milligrams, and you're take another dose at halftime. You're good to go. So
he'll play.
Yeah. So I don't.
It's like Bosa last week. He didn't practice, but he played.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into it. So that we got a big game this week against our NFC West rival, the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle just lost to the Carolina Panthers at home. That was somewhat surprising. So they're coming into this game now 7-6. We're up 2 games on them. Of course, this is on Thursday evening on Amazon Prime. up in Seattle, looking to be a cold one. High is 41 degrees. So around game time, they're saying it should be around 34, 35. So it's gonna be cold. All-time series, Seattle leads the Niners 30 games to 18. That's because they won 10 straight between 2014 and 2018. And this one is big because not only is it a divisional rival, of course, these games always count like double, but because of that, with the win, as I just said, the Niners can clinch the division, which is huge. Can just clinch it outright. Right now, this is Tuesday evening. Once again, the point spread is San Francisco by 3.5 points, with the over under being 43.5 points. Makes me think of a game, I don't know, about 3 years ago, where it came down to the very last play in Seattle to determine who wins the division. Grandpa, you remember that one?
I do, yeah. And Greenlaw made the tackle, on the 1 yard line against their tight end. That was crazy. It was, yeah, boy. We were really ahead in that game, and Seattle rallied at the end, and they were down, knocking on the door with Russell Wilson, and you went, oh no, not again. Because Russell Wilson against us was 17-4.
Yes.
Now he lost that juice in Denver. He hasn't. They're 3-10. But anyway, so we haven't swept Seattle since 2011. Okay, and so it's time to do that.
Sure.
And what's interesting is the last 2 weeks, Seattle is really, so 2 weeks ago, the Raiders ran for 283 yards against them. And last week, Carolina ran for 223, and these are teams that usually get about 100 yards a game rushing. The Raiders got 283. So all of a sudden you can run on Seattle. And their defense is not very good. It's, they score points and they give up points.
Yep.
So yeah, I expect us to run a lot.
I think so too, especially with it being cold, also being on the road. And Pete Carroll is known for his defenses. It is surprising to see that their run defense is so bad. It is ranked 31st in the league right now. But when you're 13 games into the season, you kind of have to look at the last 6, because even the Seattle team that we blew out in whatever was it, week 3 at home,
27-7 in week 2.
Yeah, it's not week 2. It's not. They're not the same team. You got to acknowledge that. Neither are we. But it is. So looking at that kind of those recent games, very surprising to see that they are letting people run on them so much. And I totally think that we are going to try to expose that and run before we pass. And we mentioned it previously, Jordan Mason. This is a Jordan Mason game. I think his touches have been increasing from like 2 to 3 to 5 to 7. This last game, I think he had 11. I expect him to get north of 11, 13, 15 carries, and really split those reps, those carries with Christian McCaffrey. And then of course, that's all that's going to do is set up the pass and get Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield, get those throws. I think this game plays to our favor. I was a little surprised to see that we're only favored by 3.5 points.
I know. I am too. I thought it would be more.
Yeah, but
this would be a coming out party for Jordan. Yeah,
I would love to see that.
He'll pack the mail.
Yeah.
Now, one other thing that I wanted to talk about, and that's if we win the game and win the division, we are a number 3 seed. And that means we get one home game, depending on how things go, but it very likely will be just one home game. If we happen to move into the number 2 seed where Minnesota is, and we're one game behind them, we will get 2 home games. So that's what I'd like to see happen. There's 4 games left. Minnesota plays Indy, the Giants, Green Bay, and Chicago. And they've kind of slipped of late, so we'll see. But that is, that would be nice if we could get the number 2 seed.
Yeah, and one more piece of that I was just reading before we jumped on this podcast that I found was really intriguing is not only is the 2 home games, but we would also probably avoid the Cowboys until the NFC Championship game because they are going to get a wild card spot because the Eagles are doing so well. And that would put them against the Eagles actually going into the NFC Championship. And the Cowboys are, very formidable. And so
the Cowboys are good at.
Yep.
They're good at home. They're terrible on the road.
True.
That's basically. They're really good at home, but they go on the road and they stink it up.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, still, you look at the metrics, they, and like us, play pretty complementary football, have a good offense, good defense. So I want to stay clear of them. I think, facing the Reds, I'd rather face the Redskins or the Commanders in the second round than the Cowboys for sure.
Yeah. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. But there's 4 games left in the season, and it would be, if we could get the number 2 seed, that would be phenomenal.
Oh, it would.
Yeah.
Okay, some other intrigue here. Of course, is what Seattle brings. We mentioned that what they don't bring, which is a good rushing defense. Geno Smith is still having one heck of a year. He's the 3rd in the league in passer rating.
Mm-hmm.
Thrown 2 touchdown passes in 7 consecutive games and 11 of his last 13. They're playing great. They got 2 really good wide receivers, as we know, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, who are both on pace for 1,000-yard seasons. And then where they are maybe have a little weak spot, but we'll see kind of how it shakes out, is that their running game is not very formidable. Their starting running back went out with injury for the year, and so they've really leaned on Kenneth Walker, the 3rd rookie out of Michigan State, who was really good. I actually really like the guy. He's coming off an ankle injury, so this would be his first game back, and faces, of course, the number 1 defense in the 49ers. So add some intrigue there, and then of course, Dad, we know that they always talk about the 12th man and the noise at 21st Century Link Field, or whatever it's called now, Lumen Field. How do you think that Brock Purdy is going to do with that sound?
The noise.
Brock Purdy, he actually wears glasses and carries a briefcase. He's a scientist and a businessman. So noise is nothing. I don't really see that being an issue. I think it would if you were, a different style quarterback that he's not this athletic guy who's trying to win the game on his shoulders. He's just taking care of business. And he's running his troops out there. So I don't see that being a big issue. The 12th man, that sound, it's going to be real. The players know it. They're practicing with it. I think we'll be fine. Again, it's just going to show it's another chance to not flinch. But I call him the businessman, and I think him with a briefcase and some black rim glasses. And he's just going to go in, open his briefcase, pull up the football, and go out there, play football, put it back in, and then he'll stand in front of the mic and say, "Yeah, that's what we do." Felt real good. And then you'll go into the next game. Geno Smith, though, I don't know if he hasn't played a defense like us this season. The only way they're going to beat us is in the air. I'll be honest. Geno Smith, it's going to be a test for Geno Smith. They're not going to beat us on the ground. They're not going to put a ton of points on the ground. He has to beat us through the air, and we'll be breathing down his neck with Bosa and Armstead and our defensive line. We got the great backers and our secondary. So I feel bad for any team that's going to go against us, because we really make them one-dimensional largely, because of our ability to stop the run. And I think actually we didn't pick it up, but the Tampa averaged 3.3 yards per rush, and we averaged 5.8 per rush, so they had to go to the air, and that's what they do with him anyway. And Geno, I mean, they're drinking the Kool-Aid on Geno Smith, and he's gonna have to throw the ball. And I think that's where we're gonna he's also turned over the ball 4 times, 4 interceptions in the past 3 games.
Right.
So
he's become more aggressive.
yeah.
And he has 4 interceptions the last 3 games. He's now said this week he's going to back off and not throw in these tight windows. So
a lot of that comes from it, and a lot of that comes from, and we saw it with Tom Brady, when you're playing behind, you kind of don't really have a choice. You have to get aggressive. You have to throw the ball. You got to make up points. And the Seahawks started out really hot, and besides the game against us, of course, where we dominated them, started out really hot, and they have cooled off as of late. As I said, they're now 7-6, and we've turned it on. So it is something to watch, for sure.
Our defense makes the other team predictable, and the whole thing just spirals out of control for the other team. And that's what we saw against Tampa. They became so predictable. It became like it was.
And Miami. I mean, Miami ran 8 times.
Yeah.
They, you know what they're going to do, and
Well, it works.
yeah. So Seattle is on. They've been a surprise to me. I thought when Russell Wilson went to Seattle that they're going to just collapse and come in last, actually. So they've done better than I thought they would. And the reason for that is they drafted very well. Not only did they draft well, but next year they have 7 picks in the first 3 rounds. They have Denver's picks, and Denver's 3 and 10. So they're going to be high picks. So Seattle is going to get better.
For sure.
Yeah.
One last thing to answer kind of my own question, and it kind of leads, I guess we'll lead into the next part of the conversation is, they talk about the noise, the 12th man and stuff. Brock Purdy, do I think he's going to be phased? I really don't. And I think this is another reason why you can compare Brock Purdy to Trey Lance. Brock Purdy played in the Big 12. He played at Oklahoma. He played at Texas. He's been in ginormous stadiums where everybody is cheering against you. And this, honestly, this seats less people than Oklahoma. This seats less people than the University of Texas. It has the roof that makes the sound kind of reverberate a little bit.
Right.
But this isn't his first rodeo. He started for 4 years at Iowa State. And so I think that's where this, it's those intangibles once again that make a difference, even though in the draft process, they don't, it's hard to measure them. I don't care who you are, to have that much experience in going into a game like this is huge, because Trey Lance probably played the most in front of 20, 30, 40,000 people. So I think this is going to be, he should be okay.
And that stadium gets real quiet when you're ahead by 21 points too.
Right.
It's amazing. In fact, they should take a loud meter and see how it might be one of the quietest games they've played all year. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's typically very, very loud. You have to go to silent signals and that, but I think the first 5 minutes or something, it's going to be, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And then you just, okay, this is the way it is. So let's play the game.
Yeah.
All right. So let's do score predictions. As I mentioned, the line is 43.5. The spread is San Francisco by 3.5. Dad, let's go you first.
I'm going to say 33-17 Niners.
33-17. Love it.
I'm gonna say 31-20.
Okay. So both pretty high. Okay.
Those are-
I'm going to keep it a little bit lower scoring just because I do think because of the cold, we're going to run the ball a little bit more. I'm going to say 24-10. And it's going to be built on kind of time of possession and just owning them on the line of scrimmage.
Just pounding the ball. I like it.
Okay.
But as I think we get, I mean, we definitely all agree because of our score predictions, that 3.5 point spread is surprising. I mean, following this all year, I think the two that have surprised me the most are the spread going into the Chiefs game, where I think that was just Grandpa and I did that podcast, and we both kind of doubted the Niners. We were all kinds of banged up, and yeah, the Chiefs poured it on and totally, beat the spread. And this one, I'm like, really? 3.5 points? Okay.
Yeah, I felt the same way. But that's the money, they set the line to kind of balance the money in Vegas. And I don't gamble, but I do watch that, and they're often very accurate.
I know.
Yeah. It's
a rookie quarterback, and it's the 12th man, and it's an away game for us. Those things, there's probably 10 points built into those factors: rookie, away game, 12th man in Seattle.
Short week.
Yeah. I think it's a 14-point spread, and I think those things count against us, so they're giving us 3.5. That's kind of the way I look at how they're doing it. So we'll see what happens.
The other thing that's probably going to happen is the first two teams that we've faced, they've brought the heat. Okay, and that has not worked. So right. I expect Seattle. Pete Carroll he was a defensive guy. He used to be our defensive back coach once upon a time. And he's from the Bay Area, and he went to COP, College of Pacific. But anyway, I think now they're going to go the other way and just drop people into coverage and not bring the heat, be blitzing.
And Brock Purdy will rush for 80 yards if they do that. I'm serious.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious.
No, Dad. We cannot put that guy, especially
he's not going to be design runs. They're going to pick up people out of the backfield. They're drop everybody in coverage, and he's going to run sidelines.
We're going to pull a Russell Wilson on them.
Yeah. You watch if they go to that. That's what this guy will do. But he's not going to design runs and take hits.
We're gonna run the ball with the running back and not our third string quarterback.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, awesome. It should be a good one. And now we don't have to wait for forever. We're actually recording this on Tuesday night, and the game is in less than 48 hours. So that's fun. So we got a piece of what's it called, fan mail. I don't know, fan mail. We got a question from our good friend Wes. And this was floating around also online. So good on Wes for even beating it, beating the reporters to it. He said that are we hesitant at all about Brock Purdy's, coming to the spotlight with a big game? And does it, are we concerned it's going to be another Nick Mullins? Nick Mullins had a great out showing also his rookie year against the Raiders on a Thursday night football game, dominated the Raiders. And then we know that he kind of went on to sputter later, left the Niners, bounced around the league. I think now he's with Minnesota. How is Brock Purdy like Nick Mullins, or maybe how is he different? Grandpa.
Well, first of all, thank you, Wes, for your question. I hate to compare people right away. I mean, is this the next Joe Montana? Is this the next Brent Favre? Whatever. he's Brock Purdy. He's his own person. He's different than Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins was really, to me, just an average quarterback, maybe even less than that. He worked very hard. He was a great guy. He was 5-12 as a starter for the 49ers. He won that first game. It was like 34-3, 37-3, 34-3. But he played an Oakland team that went 4-12. They were 1-6 when we played them. And they were giving up 29 points a game. So we scored 34 against a lousy team. So, I don't know that we should compare that. And Brock Purdy has already beaten 2 playoff teams. And we just need a lot more time to see what, how he does develop. And they're going to change defenses on him. And they try and find, just like baseball, you're the hole in your bat, and they're going to pitch to that place until you can hit it. So they're looking at ways to stop Brock Purdy. I don't think they're going to find him. The guy has endless talent, and Nick Mullins is bounced around. I mean, he's played for us in Cleveland and Oakland and Philly, and he's currently in Minnesota. He's just an average guy. I think Brock Purdy is a lot more than that. So, yep. Wes, I know you respect my opinion, and that's, and I also sent Wes some things. So, just.
Brock Purdy, in my opinion, I don't know how good of a quarterback he's going to be. I don't know if he'll be a franchise quarterback. I think he has the potential to be, but he has a little bit of an it factor that is unmistakable. Anybody who's spent any time around him or scouted him or anything, they say he's got a little it. I heard it mentioned once, somebody said he's like a little mini Joe Burrow as well. And the first time I saw him, I looked in his face mask, through his face mask against Miami. I said, this guy's got, and this is like the first play. Yeah. I said, this guy's got something, but you can just see it. I mean, yeah, it seems a little ridiculous, but he has a little it factor. He has this steady Eddie mindset. And then after the game, we heard all the comments from the players telling him he takes control of the huddle. This guy is unshakable. They brought the house at him to see if he would flinch. He didn't flinch. All those things, those are little it factors that separate the men from the boys at this level. And he does have that. We just got to see, how consistent he can be. So he's different than Nick, or is it Nick Mullins?
Nick Mullins.
Nick Mullins. So yeah, he's a different player. He's a high level. He's got everybody in the league's attention. And everybody's holding their breath at the same time. But it's been very exciting, and he has that it or that X factor, I believe.
Yeah, we could have absolutely the opposite happen, and we could have a quarterback problem next year if Brock Purdy keeps doing what he's doing, and I expect he will. Then when camp opens next year, the question is, who's going to be your quarterback? Trey Lance or Brock Purdy?
Or Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, yeah.
Well, that's been rumored, and now lately I'm hearing Aaron Rodgers. Now, just to touch on that a little bit, 3 years ago when Brady left New England, he wanted to come to San Francisco, and John Lynch said no. And the reason he said no was Jimmy was 28, and at the time Brady was 42. Yeah. And Lynch thought, if we get Brady for 1 year, I'm going to have to give up Garoppolo, and then I'll have nothing in a year. So he said no. And then what happens? Brady goes out and wins a Super Bowl at Tampa. So we probably would have won a Super Bowl had we brought Brady in 3 years ago. But, that's, but yeah, he's had it with Tampa. He had problems with Bruce Arians, the coach. That's why he retired. And then Tampa talked to him, and they changed the coach. So he came back. He unretired, and now his wife has left him, and he's done with Tampa. This is his last year in Tampa. Whether he wants to play next year or not, I have no idea.
Right.
But his first choice is to play in San Francisco.
I mean, I will say, and it was well documented, that he was acting like a fan when he got to the stadium. He was taking pictures of like the Hall of Fame stuff. Bryant, what's his name?
Yeah.
I forget his name, but what's the recent new Hall of Famer from the 49ers? Something Bryant.
Oh, yeah.
Bryant Young. No, Bryant Young. I saw Bryant Young on the field.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He saw him on the field like right before the game was about to start. And, like, totally like a fan, like, oh my gosh, hey, how's it going? Gave him a big hug and was like, oh, I got to get back. Somewhat kind of distracted, and he did seem a little distracted. He had supposedly 100+ family members there. It's a big deal to him. So I'm sure he would love to come kind of finish with the Niners, kind of, win a Super Bowl and ride off into the sunset. It's going to be very fascinating though. That QB room with a Trey Lance, high ceiling but low experience, versus now maybe what we're seeing with Brock Purdy is maybe he's at his ceiling, but his current performance is better than what we can get from Trey Lance, versus maybe the GOAT. Tom Brady is a free agent and he's going to want to sign. He's going to want to win. The Niners have a Super Bowl roster, and we could make anything work for 1 year. So who knows?
Well, that is the key. What you just said, Josh, is we have a roster full of all-stars, it's a very talented roster. And we've seen how the window closed quickly on Tampa, and Green Bay's window is closing, and Detroit's getting better, and some of these other teams are getting better. I mean, it's changing. And the thing about Brady, I don't know the answer to this, but I've wondered if he wants to, play when he announces retirement and, do the circuit like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did, and, some others, where everywhere you go there, he gets saluted and gifts and everything. I don't know if he wants that or not, but he hasn't done that this year. So that's a possibility. So it's fun to talk about. It's fun to think about. It's exciting to have a good team, and we'll only have this, the Kittles and that for, a few more years, and then you got to replace them, and you don't replace everybody all at once. It takes years. So we've got to take advantage of this opportunity. And that's why, a Brady or Aaron Rodgers is possible.
Yeah, we shall see. Well, all right, that I think will do it for another episode of 49ers Family. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening in. Should be another good one here on Thursday night against the Seahawks. Can't wait. Until next time, go Niners.
Go Niners. Woo!